Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our class of 2017. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the invocation by Grant Atkinson, 44 years as a cowboy preacher, and then remain standing for our national anthem sung by Janae Hansen of the Colorado Springs Conservatory.
The anthem isn't first? Okay. Let's bow together and honor our Creator. And Father, we're so blessed to be part of the greatest nation on earth and part of the greatest sport in our nation and on earth. And we thank you for that. And we're here to honor champions and greatness, but you're our greatest champion. We praise you today for the privilege to be here. We pray you'd bless this day as we honor these men and women. Father, we want to honor those who protect us. Would you protect those in our United States military, in our armed forces, in our police, military, those that protect us. And Father, thank you for all that you are as our champion. In Jesus' name, amen.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the director of the ProRodeo Hall of Fame, Kent Sturman.
Good morning. Welcome to the class of 2017 induction ceremony here at the ProRodeo Hall of Fame. We appreciate you coming out today and supporting our class. It's a pleasure and an honor to honor these 12 of the greatest that professional rodeo has produced. and thank you for joining us this year for a historic event in the first time honoring members of the Women's Professional Rodeo Association in the event of barrel racing. This year's class is one of the largest in recent history, and each and every one of them is deserving of this honor and is here for a reason. At this time, I'd like to introduce to you the Commissioner of the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association and the President of the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame, Mr. Carl Stressman.
Good morning. I'd like to add my welcome to the class of 2017 for the induction ceremonies for the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame. You are, in fact, about to witness a historic event as we welcome the WPRA and the first class for the induction here in 2017. I guess over the years, the only thing that you could ask the question is, what the hell took us so long? So, you know, if you were lucky enough to have purchased a ticket about 6 months ago to the Cowboy Ball last night, I got to tell you that last year we seated about 390 people, I think. Last night the tally went over 460. So if you think rodeo's not alive and well and the rodeo community's not here, you should have been at the Cowboy Ball last night because it's very, very good. I'd like to just add one more thing to that it's been a pleasure. I've been standing at this podium for 9 years welcoming the classes of the Hall of Fame, and I'd like to tell you that this has been a wonderful, wonderful experience. I hope you all have a wonderful time here today and this weekend. It's the most fun of anything that we do as the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association because, like I mentioned last night at the ball, everybody's happy this weekend. I've gotten very little free advice, and I'm glad about that. So enjoy the weekend, enjoy the ceremonies. Congratulations to each and every one of you and your families. Thank you.
At this time, I would like to ask if we have any PRCA and Hall of Fame board members to please stand. I know there's more than that out there. Thank you for your support. I also want to thank and welcome the young ladies that work hard on the part of professional rodeo all year long, and that's our state rodeo queen title holders. We couldn't do this weekend without you. We're so glad you're always here every year. So with the state queens, please stand to be recognized at this time. Thank you. And of course, on stage with us today, helping with the presentations, is the 2017 Miss Rodeo America, Lisa Lagashar from Texas. We welcome her to Colorado Springs and the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame. Thank you, Lisa. Our MC for this morning's event is professional rodeo announcer Randy Schmutz. He's traveled the rodeo road to many places he'd never dreamed of seeing. In fact, he's announced events in almost 200 different cities and has been selected 46 different times to work 10 different rodeo finals. Some of those include the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo as an alternate, the Badlands, Great Lakes, Montana, and Mountain State Circuit Finals Rodeos. He was also selected 4 times to work the Ram National Circuit Finals Rodeo in Pocatello, Idaho. He's an 8-time College National Finals Rodeo announcer and twice announced the Indian National Finals Rodeo. He was the youngest ever to announce the National High School Finals Rodeo in 1991 and 92. He's been nominated twice as PRCA Announcer of the Year and also emceed the Miss Rodeo America pageant 5 times. His talent is not limited to only announcing. Randy co-produced and directed the opening ceremonies for 20 performances of the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo in 95 and 96. He and his wife Amber and their 3 children live on a ranch just outside of Stephenville, Texas. Ladies and gentlemen, we're honored to have with us today Mr. Randy Schmutz.
The biggest grin was Randy Corley. He couldn't believe all that happened in the last 30 years, did you? Yeah. I got to tell you that it is indeed an honor, Mr. Commissioner, Mr. Kent Starman, to all of you that are here today. This is indeed an honor and a privilege for me because I get to stand before what I call rodeo greatness. You know, it's great to be here among friends and family, but even better to be here among our rodeo friends and family. I shared with Carl last night that there are 365 days in our year. In professional rodeo, there are 10 very important days in December. But I must admit that I believe today is the most important day in professional rodeo, period. We get to honor, preserve, talk about, view, witness, and be among the greatest in our industry for this next couple of hours. And it is, of course, that time that we get to share the history. Some of us haven't seen each other in a long, long time. What a better reason to come together than to honor 12 individuals for this year's 2017 induction into the ProRodeo Hall of Fame. The hall was built back in 1979. It was the vision of a man we'll honor today. And as a matter of fact, I'm also happy to say that year we inducted 85 in our inaugural class. Over the years, for the past 38 seasons, we've included 14 different categories. To date, 250 individuals, 31 animals, 27 rodeo committees have been inducted. Today, we'll add 12 more. Over 35,000 people per year come through this hall to witness and watch and see the history of our great sport. As we begin today, many of you would share different opinions on what's the most important thing about professional rodeo. Well, I think there are several who weigh as equally, but I must admit that the rodeo committees in our industry are indeed the backbone of our sport. For if it were not for these rodeo communities, the hardworking individuals, most of which are volunteers, our cowboys and cowgirls, as good as they are, would have nowhere to perform. The platform wouldn't be there. The venues wouldn't be available. And the stage that we get to call rodeo arenas would not be there as well. So it's only fitting that we start with our rodeo committee inductee this year. The backbone of professional rodeo indeed provides those platforms, and this one has provided that for 83 years, going all the way back to 1934. If you look to your screens, I give you our rodeo committee inductee, the Ogden Pioneer Days PRCA Rodeo.
The Ogden, Utah Pioneer Days celebrated its 83rd year of existence in 2017. The event has come a long way since its inception in 1934, when Ogden Mayor Harmon W. Peary organized a Western festival to boost the spirits of the locals and entice tourists to visit the city. The rodeo officially began following the Great Depression as a way to boost community morale. It evolved into a rodeo, which has been recognized among the top 5 in the best large outdoor PRCA rodeo category several times, and has a strong fan base which supports the event every year. However, Ogden Pioneer Days is more than just a rodeo. It's an event that has become a Utah staple every third week of July. It includes concerts, parades, farmers markets, and of course, a rodeo at historic Ogden Pioneer Stadium. According to committee members of the Ogden Pioneer Days, it's the largest celebration in the state of Utah. They're celebrating today with Ogden Pioneer Days induction into the ProRodeo Hall of Fame.
Ladies and gentlemen, accepting on behalf of the Ogden Pioneer Days Rodeo, here today is Alan Hall, the chairman of the Rodeo Committee, and Dave Halverson, the Rodeo Director. Please welcome our Ogden Pioneer Days PRCA Rodeo Committee.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Ogden Pioneer Days Foundation, all of our trustees, all of our various committees that come together annually over these 83 years to put on a remarkable event to celebrate our pioneer heritage. I happen to be a generation many removed from my grandmother who came into the valley of those mountains in Utah in 1847. We want to keep our tradition alive forever, to recognize our Western way of life and the great things that we accomplish together. So we have with us today our Mayor of Ogden City, and on behalf of you, Mayor, we thank you for helping us with this great rodeo, our rodeo committees, and those who else support us. Let me turn a moment to Dave Halverson, our director, to also express thanks for this wonderful opportunity to be inducted in the class of 2017. Thank you.
Thank you. It's an honor. Hope you can hear me. It's an honor to be here in this group today with this group of committee members and to be recognized. As a question was asked us just a few minutes ago, why do we do and what makes Ogden have the passion and the quality and strive for what it does and what we've become? And one of our committee members reminded us that Harm Perry, as you saw in that video, traveled all over the country to select the very best in the rodeo of what would make up a rodeo back in 1934. And that same spirit and that same effort and energy to bring the best to rodeo, whether it's stock contractors, whether it's the cowboys and cowgirls and the PRCA and WPRA, the committee members, the specialty acts, the announcers, and the voices that all come together to make rodeo, it becomes magic. And we're very grateful for the PRCA Rodeo Hall of Fame, the ProRodeo Hall of Fame for recognizing that, and also those that reach a little higher than some think is wise and work a little harder than many think are prudent, and that's in this group of committee members and in our city. We couldn't do without those type of people, and my hat's off to them. And every organization has them, and you know who they are, and I, from the bottom of my heart, thank those individuals that make us reach higher and further than we thought we could. Thank you.
All right, we got photo ops right here, guys.
How about one more congratulations to the Ogden Pioneer Days PRCA Rodeo. As an announcer, we know that the contest of rodeo takes more than one. It takes a cowboy, and it takes livestock, or it takes time to event horses. And it is indeed a thrill to talk about inducting yet another phenomenal rodeo animal athlete. Today's induction is kind of a unique induction, and I'm going to get our friend Bobby to share a little bit more about that. But as I read the bio on this great horse, it is indeed true that sometimes great things come to those who wait. Ironically, this horse was late into his 20s before he ever won a world title. We'll learn more about that in just a moment. But today it's my privilege and honor to welcome to the Hall of Fame in our rodeo livestock category the horse Smith & Velvet from Christensen Brothers Rodeo Company.
Bareback horse Smith & Velvet was the definition of a late bloomer. Smith & Velvet was honored as the PRCA's top bareback horse 4 times from 1977 through 1982. Oddly enough, Smith & Velvet didn't become an award-winning bucker until he was in his 20s. When owner Bobby Christensen first started bucking the horse, Smith & Velvet would be good for 5 or 6 seconds, then he would spin and stop. A lot of people told Christensen to get rid of the horse that would never reach its full potential. Instead, he stayed the course and turned Smith and Velvet out for a few years. The horse's comeback tour was complete when he was entered in Oakdale, California in the late 1970s, and he bucked off world champion Jack Ward. From then on, Christensen knew he had a good horse, and the animal's career took off. Smith and Velvet faced 5-time world champion Joe Alexander, one of the greatest bareback riders of all time, 6 times in his career. Alexander made the whistle 3 times. 3 times he failed to do so. Smith and Velvet died in 1983 in a tragic truck and trailer accident that killed many of Christensen's prized NFR horses. Smith and Velvet now joins rodeo's elite in the ProRodeo Hall of Fame.
You know, what's even more unique about today is, and I may have this number wrong, but I think if I've got my calculations right, there are 5 generations of the Christensen family here today, and here to accept this award is none other than Bobby Christensen Jr.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, cowboys and cowgirls. I'm going to try and speak a little slow today because I'm a little short on teeth but long on memory. And if I happen to get on tilt, have to pull a little leather, please bear with me. These times are special, as Randy said here at the hall. Last time I was here for war paint, Hadley Barrett was the MC. My dear friend Harry Wolf was sitting right there. But enjoy who you meet and greet, because it's a wonderful time. Christensen Brothers has been blessed to have 3 great bucking horses in this hall. And mind you, they all come from Indian reservations. So all you stock contractors out there, if you happen to get a call from an Indian that says he has a bucking horse, you best go take a look-see. Anyway, when I got, let me find out where I'm at. Okay, when when Miss Klamath went in, my dad called on announcer Mel Lambert to come and say a few words. And when Warpaint came in, I called on Mac Lockery, rodeo announcer, to come and help me. So when Byron Walker called me and said Smith was going in, the first person I called was my brother, Randy Corley. And I said, Randy, can I hire you one more time? And he says, what's up? And I said, Smith is going into the hall and I want you to come and speak for a little bit for me. He said, don't worry, brother, I'll be there because I'm going in with him. And that was a surprise. Then I found out Cody Custer was going in. Custer's spent a few years at our ranch too, so they got some tales from the Christensen ranch. And it's kind of like a family reunion here for me today. I got so many relatives here, I can't count that far. Anyway, on to Smith and Velvet. I'd kind of like to tell a little story, short story, early story about him. George Abel was the man that owned him over on the Paiute Indian Reservation in McDermott. And he called us, and along with, I don't know, we got quite a few calls on this big bad yellow horse that nobody could ride over there. So finally, Mel Lambert had his plane then. I got Dad in there with Mel, and Jerry Hickson, he was a pretty good little bronc rider, went with him. And they flew over there to McDermott, Nevada, and it's not very big if you've never been there. Blink your eyes and you'll miss it. But anyway, I was talking to Jerry a couple of weeks ago, and he said, he said, when we got out of the plane, got to the arena, they already had the yellow horse in the chutes. And he said he was pretty nervous and had a lot of guys holding his head and stuff. And Jerry said when called for him, he jumped out there and he just cartwheeled, 2 jumps and cartwheeled over backwards with him. And of course, my dad immediately said, we can't have anything like that in our herd. And Jerry said, well, let's try him again, Bobby, because I think he'll buck. And so they brought him back, and Jerry said, keep everybody away from his head. And he got in there and he was getting ready. And he said, Bobby, right before I called for him, I looked out in the arena and he said there were 10 Indian pickup men with reins in one hand and a beer in the other. So evidently they weren't figuring on picking him up. Anyway, Jerry said he jumped out and started bucking down the chutes and kept getting stronger and stronger, and he finally had to double grab the buck rein, keep from getting bucked off. And it's a pole arena, and Smith jumped the poles at the end of the arena in with the horses he came in with, and Jerry got off in there. So that was our first experience with him. We bought the horse for a whopping $600 and named him Mr. Smith after Gene Smith, the Secretary Treasurer of St. Paul Rodeo Association. And he was pretty good right at first, but he was thin, tall and thin, and I mean he'd buck like hell for about 5 or 6 seconds, poetry in motion, and then stop and spin. So that was in the bronc riding. So we put him in the bareback riding, and some guys they'd get through on him and get the full 8, or else he'd do the spin. And especially when the good hands got on him, because he couldn't buck them off as easy as the cowboys at McDermott. And it got so bad that everybody started calling him a phony son of a gun and all that. And so I just one summer I just said, turn him out and let him go, because I had a couple guys that wanted to send him some other place. And I didn't bring him in till, I think it was 75. We were getting ready for Oakdale. And I said, I'm going to take him in my stock for him. And Bill Stanton, he got mad at me. He says, you don't want to take that phony son of a gun with you. So I put him in the slack at Oakdale, California. That was our first rodeo. And who in the heck should draw him but Jack Ward, world champ. And so about 5 or 6 seconds out there, I don't know if Jack spurred over his neck or Smith bucked him off, but both things happened. And Jack was hung up on the left side running alongside of him. And he pole-balled it back over to get his hand out of the rigging. And Smith went on from there. He was second best horse at the 76 NFR, and then started his run on the 4 titles. So on behalf of the entire Christensen family, I'd like to thank the PRCA and the Hall for this fine award. Thank you. Could I have my sister come up and help me hold these trophies? Sure. Miss Vicky, come on up here and help me, hon. This is my sister, folks. She got all the looks. Okay.
I do believe it is safe to say that our rodeo community is filled with characters. You know, our sport, with 8 events, specialization has become the talk of the town, and when I read the bio on our next inductee, it was a breath of fresh air to see a horse that could do more than one thing, and that's what made this horse so special. Today, I'm honored to induct the rodeo livestock category under our equine athletes, an AQHA gelding that not only performed well in the barrel racing and the steer wrestling, he was indeed an all-around horse. It's my honor to introduce to you, as we watch the video, our friend Star Plaudit, Red.
Star Plaudit holds a very unique record in the world of professional rodeo, one that is not likely to ever be duplicated. Star gelding by Oklahoma Star Jr. out of Sunshine Plaudit won 2 world championships in the sport in a single year and contributed to a 3rd. Red, as he was affectionately known, carried his owner, Sherry Combs Johnson, to the GRA world title in barrel racing, and close friend Tom Nesmith to the RCA world title in steer wrestling, and helped the Oklahoman also claim the RCA all-around championship in 1962. Johnson first came to know Red when her husband at the time, Benny Combs, bought the horse in partnership with his brother Willard. Red was a bulldogging horse, and the brothers trained and competed on him. When Red was 8 years old, Johnson was in need of a horse to run barrels. barrel racing seemed to come easy to the gelding, and he liked the new challenge. Johnson, a member of the WPRA from Addington, Oklahoma, credits the steer wrestling with making Red a better barrel horse by teaching him to run hard through the pattern. Red was very independent, according to Johnson, strictly business, and not at all interested in attention from people. He ran barrels until he was retired at age 18. He died a few years later. Today, Red has a new home in the ProRodeo Hall of Fame.
Come on up here. The beautiful young lady is here herself to accept this award for Star Plaudit Red. Would you welcome Miss Sherry Johnson? Congratulations.
This is just an awesome day. I mean, it's the inaugural of the WPRA, and I'd like to thank the PRCA and the WPRA for this honor for Red. He was such a special horse. And he was a good bulldogging horse, and yeah, a really good bulldogging horse. And they say he was honest in the bulldogging side and would always give you a good lay, and you were never wide on him. And I don't know that much about bulldogging. You know, I'm just, excuse me, telling tales. But I know I did not have a barrel horse. And when we came home from going up north, I had 6 weeks. And Red did not train well. He never loped around a pattern, so I went fast. It worked. I went to one jackpot, came out, and Benny said, "Why didn't you run?" Well, I thought it was. And we went to, excuse me, we went to Denver. We went to Denver. Well, darn. We went to Denver, his first rodeo. Came out the same alley the bulldoggers did. This was after the bulldogging, of course, and we changed saddles. He came out that alley straight to the bulldogging chute, and I thought, oh, shit. I mean, I'm sorry. I am so sorry. I didn't mean that. Anyway, I guess that's what I thought. I took the right rein, and he clued in. We won the go. You know, I found out that day what run meant. He always ran his hardest. He was the tryingest, best horse. I mean, he didn't waste time at a turn. He just did his business. He was strictly business. You know, he was gentle as he could be. My daughter rode him. And I loved him. And I took care of him because it was my privilege. And you know, at the time it was just fun. Wow, we had a 3-way tie way to make money. Benny in the bulldogging, me in the barrel racing, Red in both events. Maybe we could get home with some money. It did. We afforded us to buy more land and to build a house. What more could you ask? Well, it was just fun. I'd go to a rodeo and I wasn't arrogant or anything. It was like, I'm gonna win something. You know, Charmayne felt the same way. It was great. You know, I've never had a horse like him. I've always gauged horses by him. But everybody defines heart more ways than 7. But he had it. And with that said, I believe that a barrel racer better know her barrel horse better than her husband. And I think we do. And, you know, we also had Benny's nephew, Billy Dean. He'd stay home and take care of stuff while we were gone. And that was great. We didn't have to worry. And he was just so awesome. And I've written notes, and I haven't even looked at them. And anyway, I just want to, the bulldoggers, you know, they would come to the fence to watch me run. What am I doing to their horse? You know, hello. Well, anyway, they accepted him. He's going to be a bulldogging horse too, a barrel racing horse too, and he was. He was great in both events, and golly, Bill, this is the biggest honor of all for him and me. And I thank you very, very much. I want to Shake hands. Randy, I want to visit with you. Thank you. Thank you.
Remember what I said a minute ago about characters? We have another one. By the way, Corley, I'm up here taking notes. So far, I've seen a stock contractor with a handwritten double-spaced speech he hardly even looked at. Now I've seen a barrel racer who had a handful of notes and didn't use a single one of them. Why do we have a pencil? Earlier today, as Kent welcomed you, he also mentioned the fact that we are very, very honored in 2017 to be a part of a class that for the first time ever will induct members of the WPRA in the barrel racing into this great Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame. I could not think of a better class of two girls, and I say girls, pretty girls, to be inducted into the hall than these two women today. The first of which is one of the most outstanding cowgirls and probably one of the most humble individuals you'll ever would have met. This beautiful lady, not only was she an outstanding talent in every sense of the word, she could out-rodeo, out-rope, and outride the cowboys. Today it's my honor to honor our WPRA barrel racing inductee into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame. Take a look, Miss Wanda Bush.
Wanda Harper Bush was multi-talented, becoming the most decorated cowgirl in the history of the Women's Professional Rodeo Association, formerly the Girls Rodeo Association, or GRA. When the GRA first formed in 1948, Bush was one of the first to sign up. In fact, she carried card number 14 and later served on the board of directors. Wanda grew up roping and tying goats to help her father on the ranch. She graduated from goats to calves and was the talk of the arena, even to the point of matching men. While in the sports world, Billie Jean King is credited with being the first to match the men, it was in fact the Texas Cowgirl and her horse Eagle that entered a match roping on 6 head against a man, and Wanda won it. It was not a story known far and wide because the humble cowgirl just went in there, took care of business, and moved on. Despite Bush's desire for a quiet existence, she was a popular figure, appearing in Rolling Stone magazine along with rocker Bruce Springsteen and in the television game show To Tell the Truth. Wanda passed away on December 30th, 2015 at the age of 84. In her career, she won an incredible 32 world titles. 9 of those were all-around titles, 2 were in barrel racing. Wanda Harper Bush is now in the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame.
Ladies and gentlemen, here to accept on behalf of her mom, her daughter, Miss Shanna Bush.
Thank you. Hello and welcome. For you that don't know me, I'm Shanna, Wanda and Stanley's very proud daughter. I would like to congratulate all the inductees today. What an honor to be in such an elite group. Thank you to the PRCA for including the WPRA today. My mom worked so hard to always make those two associations come together, and I know how very proud she is. And thank you to the PRCA and to the WPRA for making this event such an awesome event. Byron and Mary Walker got the ball rolling to be the initial ones to nominate Mom. Sean Davis and Dr. Graham wrote some incredible nomination letters. And Carolyn Vitor and Bud and Jimmy Monroe, you've been my saving grace, answering my questions and just being there for me. Thank you to our Harper family for coming today to honor Mom. I can never, ever name all of our special family friends that have come. And in our household, our friends are our family. I couldn't have done this without your support. My rock, my uncle, A.C. Harper, and my mom's brother couldn't be here today, so I speak for A.C. as well. Byron told me not to get up here and go on and on and on about all of Mother's accomplishments because everyone already knew them, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to show y'all who the real Wanda Harper Bush was. Mom grew up at a very early age riding with her dad, Alvin Harper, on our ranches in Mason County. Her true love for riding never, ever faded. Our ranch road was still dirt and not paved when Mom was in school, so she had to ride her little horse, Tony, 3.5 miles one way to catch the school bus. She wore her pants under her dress, then took them off at school. Our papa built a little pen for Tony down at the end of our ranch road, and he would haul him feed and water. And Mom had to open and close 7 gates one way to go catch the school bus. So she would lope Tony at a pretty good little clip to make up time. Thus, her love for a good horse and speed started. If the weather was bad, Papa would come to meet her on his horse and ride with her. She started her roping career out by roping wormy goats, sheep, and calves during the terrible screwworm epidemic in Texas. She was supposed to drive them to the pens to doctor them, but roping was a lot more fun and saved her a lot of time. And if you've ever tried roping a goat in a section pasture through mesquites and prickly pear, you know it's going to test your roping skills. Mom could do a job that any cowboy could do, and most of it a lot better. As she started out her rodeo career, Papa told her, "You're going to be placed in with all kinds of people, the rich, the poor, the good, and the bad. But just always be yourself, and you will be fine." Papa always had good horses for her to ride, and her career really took off when she got Eagle and EG. Even though AC was her younger brother, he always wanted her to ride the best horse. He broke and started every winter that left our ranch. He was always there for my mom and took care of her to the very end. Papa always told Mom there was no need to be talking about your bragging on your winning. He said someone will know it when the results come out. She always lived her life by what Papa told her. She was one to shy away from publicity, interviews, and pictures. Material things just didn't mean much to Mom. But in return, she always gave me the very best of everything. She taught many movie stars, singers, governors, vice presidents, and their kids to ride, or they bought horses from us, but no one would ever know when they came or went at our ranch. That's just how our family was. Probably the thing that she loved the most were the shirts that Carolyn sent her. She looked so forward to that box arriving. She was genuinely a really appreciative person, always content with just what she had. Family friend Nancy Mays said Mom was always quietly famous. Mom was small in stature, but larger than life on a horse. Kenneth Springer, our renowned photographer and friend, described Mom's form around a barrel as perfect. Her hands, feet, and body were one with her horse. She had the lightest, quickest hands and such balance around a barrel, if you blinked, you would miss her cueing her horse. Mom was a worker. She was the first one up in the morning, the last one to bed at night. Many nights, she would help me with my homework while cooking supper, then go saddle up a horse and ride, turn on the arena lights and ride till maybe 2, come to the house, never go to bed, start cleaning house, and just start the next day over. She lived out her favorite Bible verse, "Blessed is the one who is too busy to work in the day, too sleepy to work at night, to worry at night." She did so many things away from riding. She would be out in the hayfield with AC moving irrigation pipes, 2 of her steps to his 1. It was a great day when the wheel move came about. You would see her in the concession stand at the football game, making the best tavern burgers there. She had a special way of talking to kids and explaining things to them and helping them with their problems. She would be so proud of her kids today that are here and how they've turned out. She was a very matter-of-fact person, and you knew right where you stood with her. Right was right, wrong was wrong. Our cousin, Mitzi Harper, said Mom was an awesome lady, the very best in the arena, but maybe even so more in everyday life. She was a true, sincere person and was that way to all. Friends would call her about their marriage troubles, their troubles raising kids, and she could talk them right through it. She had a knack of when to call people and help someone out and lift their day. She made the prettiest, gosh, I need water. She made the prettiest gate decorations. Thank you. I'm sorry. I barely got up here for a sickness, so anyway. She made the prettiest gate decorations for our gate, no matter the season or the holiday. And everyone wanted to be at our house for her Sunday dinner: fried chicken, cream gravy, yeast rolls, and peach cobbler. What a cook. There was no better place than to be around our kitchen table to talk about your day or your problem with your horse. So much love and knowledge was passed around that table. When the bone infection in her feet and leg made it impossible for her to walk outside, she got a motorized scooter. She and her little happy dog would spend many an hour out in her yard watering her grass, plants, and flowers and trees she loved so much. One day I was helping her pull that water hose. She zoomed past me like a flash in her little scooter, just tooted the horn, grinned, and laughed. So that was her enjoyment, and her lawnmower took the place of her horse when she could not ride anymore due to her feet. AC said there was nothing that she wouldn't drive that dang lawnmower over. Her mower was appropriately named the Pony, and AC spent many hours putting new blades on the pony for all the rocks Mother mowed. Mom worked many tireless hours working for the betterment of the WPRA. She always had the best of the WPRA in their heart, and she will be so excited and proud today that the PRCA has brought us in to their amazing, amazing Hall of Fame induction. She and several others seated in here today worked tirelessly for what the WPRA members are able to enjoy today. Anyone that ever came to our house for help or to one of her clinics know Mom had a few favorite sayings that she used and that they still ring true in you today. Carolyn said she always uses Mom's "pay attention," not only for her horses, but in everyday life, driving and being out late at night by yourself. If we hit a barrel, Papa would say, "Well, you had the bridle reins, didn't you?" So Mom would always tell us that. Cecile loved Mom's "trust your training" one. That gave you a lot of confidence. And Mom would be so proud that her kids have learned the ethic of try hard, work hard at it, and don't give up. She always had expected several that she's helped all their life to take on our way of riding and training, and they've made her very proud. And yes, my mother did ride every single horse at her clinics every day, usually limited to 40, sometimes over, and she made most horses look like a champion. She was blessed with an unreal feel for a horse and could step on and look like she had ridden one a lifetime. Dr. Charles Graham said he met Mom in Houston in 1949 while she was getting her great mare DG shod. He told me how proud and what an honor it's been to be a big part of our family's life for over 60 years. He said, "All I can say is, what a ride it's been." Mom wore the same size Wranglers for over 60 years and still looked like a 20-year-old in them. She always said she didn't need to go anywhere if she couldn't wear her Wranglers. There was nothing she liked better than getting up early and sharing a cup of coffee with Dad, taking care of Happy Dog, and then heading out to feed and check the horses. She enjoyed cleaning stalls. That was her relaxing and thinking time. And she expected you to do just as good of a job at cleaning your stall as you did riding. Her special doctors and nurses said they learned so much from her. They said she taught them to be tough in a kind way. Work hard, but always be there for your family. Be strong, be strong-willed, and face the hard times of life head on and full speed ahead. Her longtime family banker, Bobby McMillan, probably summed Mom up the very best of anyone in a letter she wrote to Mom. She said her country qualities of honesty, integrity, and no fear of hard work and dedication to her life's work was who Wanda was. Bobby said, "Wanda, you've taught me so much about just be yourself, and the rest will take care of itself." I am very proud to accept this amazing award for my mom, a famous legend and icon, but my very best friend. And for my dear uncle, A.C. Harper, that said my mom was a world champion sister. How deserving to be the first woman inducted into the PRCA Hall of Fame. History is made today, and she did it by being just Wanda. I know she and Dad had the best seat in the house today, and thank you. Thank you for that water.
Well, if you didn't see Wanda Bush standing here a moment ago, you weren't watching. Our next category is the Rodeo Notable category. This category indeed has a lot of weight because it is reserved for those who have made the largest impact on our industry. In big, bold letters, that's what I wrote, was impact. This next man indeed impacted the PRCA both inside and outside the arena. What you see here today was a dream that came true, and with this man's hard work, the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame became a reality. This man changed our rodeo landscape in the early to mid-1970s, and I'm so honored to introduce to you our Rodeo Notable category inductee. Take a look, Mr. Bob Ragsdale.
Bob Ragsdale was an all-around Montana cowboy, competing in steer wrestling as well as steer roping and team roping, qualifying for the National Finals Rodeo on 22 separate occasions. Ragsdale never won a world title, though his impact on rodeo has been profound. Ragsdale, the Montana High School all-around champion in 1956, became an official member of the PRCA in 1961. Ragsdale remains one of only 4 left-handed tie-down ropers to qualify for the NFR, a feat he accomplished 15 consecutive years, starting in 1961. In that 15-year span, Ragsdale finished as high as 4th in the world and never lower than 9th. Ragsdale also qualified for the NFR in steer wrestling 5 times and twice in team roping. Ragsdale also served as both vice president and president of the Rodeo Cowboys Association, and is credited as the one to propose the association include the word professional to the organization's formal title in 1975. His work atop the association saw an increase in sponsorship and prize money while also growing the number of PRCA contestants. Talent and leadership are just 2 of the reasons Bob Ragsdale is now in the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame.
Ladies and gentlemen, will you please welcome the man, Mr. Bob Ragsdale.
I thank God for placing me in a time in a country where you have the freedom to make your dreams come true. I thank my wife, Rhea, of 60 years for raising the kids, working the chutes, driving the trucks, and doing whatever it takes to make it work. I thank my daughters, Kathy, Cindy, and Jamie, and our extended family and friends for their support, and also for being here at this induction ceremony. I thank the ProRodeo Hall of Fame for selecting me for induction into the hall. This is a great honor. I was born in Harlem, Montana, a little town in the north central part of the state, about 40 miles from the Canadian border. If you were born and raised in Montana, you can have a lot of different addresses in your lifetime, but you'll always be a Montanan. Casey Tibbs, Bill Linderman, Toots Mansfield were my heroes growing up. When I graduated from high school in 1956, I went to Toots Mansfield Roping School in Big Springs, Texas. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was my college education. You know, the best part about rodeoing, besides the friends you make, or the memories you carry with you the rest of your life. And I've got one that I will never forget. Harley May, Walt Linderman, and I were flying from San Jose, California to Angels Camp to pick up Jack Roddy, and then on to Redding, California. Now, I have a tendency to get sick in these small planes. Harley was flying the plane, and we landed in Angels Camp to pick up Jack, and on to Redding. I had not eaten anything since breakfast, and it was about 4 in the afternoon, and I was starving to death. So I ate a couple of hot dogs and drank a Coke. We were not in the air very long, and I started getting sick. These guys weren't showing me any mercy. Walt was in the back with me. I said, "Walt, hand me that bag." But he wasn't quick enough. I grabbed my mouth with both hands, and it was like I had a fire hose. First I nailed Walt, then Harley, then Jack. You couldn't even see out of the windshield. Jack and Harley were laying down in the front seat. Jack said, "Ragsdale, I'm going to kill you when we get out of this plane." I said, "If we don't get on the ground pretty quick, you won't have to." Man, I didn't know that a couple of hot dogs and a Coke could make such a mess. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you're not mounted on a good horse, you're not going to win anything. During my rodeo career, I rode some great horses. One of the first horses that I rode was a little bay horse that I called Cavallo. My dad bought him for $25. I broke him to ride, and with the help of Jeff Bowe, a good friend of mine, I learned to rope on him. Horses like Cavallo are worth their weight in gold. My kids and all the neighbor kids learned how to ride on him. He passed at 29 years old. Other good horses that I owned were Blackjack, Sorreltop, Jayhawker, and Skippy. Steer wrestling horses that I rode were Walt Linderman's Scotty, Bob Marshall's Little 8, and C.R. Jones's Peanuts. All these horses are gone now, but I'm sure going to have some good ones to choose from if I ever get to heaven. I consider this a great honor to be inducted into the ProRodeo Hall of Fame. The only one ahead of this, when the time comes, will be that big roundup in the sky. Thank you.
How about one more time, Mr. Bob Ragsdale? We continue with our inductee into the all-around category, and a man who, of course, was described by many as living his life as he rode and a caution to the wind attitude. This man you're about to meet was an all-around cowboy. He participated in the bareback riding, bull riding, saddle bronc riding, and the steer wrestling. And I will say this, you'll learn today, he did beat the odds to win an all-around world championship. Today we recognize Mr. Buck Rutherford.
Austin Buck Rutherford hailed from the small northeast Oklahoma town of Lenapaw. Rutherford lived as he rode with fearless abandon, competing in bareback riding, bull riding, saddle bronc riding, and steer wrestling as a member of the Rodeo Cowboys Association, Rutherford was described by fellow all-around cowboy Bill Linderman as one of the most natural athletes that ever stuck a paw in a riggin or a bull rope. After placing second in the world in the all-around in 1952, his destiny was soon altered. A devastating car accident in November of that same year left Rutherford in a coma with skull fractures. Despite months of hospitalization and doctors advising him to quit rodeo altogether, Rutherford returned for the 1954 season, miraculously winning the all-around title while becoming the first cowboy to eclipse $40,000 in cash and prizes in a single year. He edged out fellow Pro Rodeo Hall of Famer Jim Shoulders by $440 to win the gold buckle. Though Rutherford never notched an individual event title, he finished top 5 in the world standings 11 times between 1949 and 1957 in bull riding and steer wrestling. That is a Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame career.
Ladies and gentlemen, we honor the late Buck Rutherford today on behalf of his family. Here to accept is his daughter, Miss Becky Rach.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here, and congratulations to all of you. Although I am Buck's daughter, I really don't remember him well. As many of you know, he is deceased. The one thing I do know about Buck is that he loved the rodeo, he loved competing, and I'm sure that he would be greatly thrilled with this honor here today. So I'm happy to be here to accept this award on the behalf of his brother Earl and sister-in-law Tootie and the rest of his extended family. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you, Becky, and congratulations once again. Our rodeo fabric is made up of so many characters, so many individuals, and so many talents, including bulldoggers. Bulldoggers have been described in many ways by many people, and I'll just keep it at that. But the good news is we couldn't do it without them. I've heard a lot of stories about Tommy. Some I can't repeat today. Maybe he will share those with us. But one of the most unique things I read in the biography, of course, is that we know that world championships sometimes are mere dollars and cents between first and second. This fellow right here can tell you how important a clock is. Today we honor our steer wrestling inductee, Mr. Tommy Puryear.
Tommy Puryear qualified for the National Finals Rodeo 9 times, including a streak of 8 straight. The Texas Bulldogger also won a world title in 1974 and the NFR Average Crown in 1976. Puryear seemingly came from nowhere to beat Pro Rodeo Hall of Famer Tom Ferguson for that 1974 World Championship. Sitting 8th in the standings at midseason, Puryear won $5,700 at 2 rodeos to move within a few $100s of Ferguson and would go into the finals that year $659 ahead of the pack. Over the course of 10 rounds at the NFR, Puryear did what he needed to do to secure that gold buckle. The 1974 win was Puryear's 4th trip to the NFR, and he competed in 127 rodeos that year. He would be a top money winner for 8 straight seasons from 1971 through 78. Today, Puryear becomes a member of the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame.
Ladies and gentlemen, he is here. Would you please make welcome our steer wrestling world champion, Mr. Tommy Puryear. You make sure you tell him I got it right. Sir? You make sure you tell him I got it right.
I will. I promise I won't keep y'all very long. I want to thank the Hall, man. This has been a hoot all weekend. This is an honor I never planned on. I'd like to keep you and thank two men that are more responsible for me being here probably than me. 47 years ago, Leon Barley asked me if I wanted to get a permit and go to a few rodeos. I was awed that he even knew that I bull-logged a steer. So I said yes, and I went to probably 1,500 rodeos with Leon before it was over with. He always had good horses. I won the world on a horse named Mickey. He wasn't a user-friendly horse at all. I was probably the only one that really got along with him, and I think it's because both of us lived on the edge all the time. And after Leon started slowing down, I got with another horseman in Texas. I looked around. There was a horse down there named Jocko. It belonged to a guy named Lloyd Hodges, and I asked him if he wanted to go to a few 4th of July rodeos maybe. And he said, yeah. We got home in October. His wife, Kathy's here today. Kathy, I'm sorry still. I went to the finals once with Lloyd. We had a good time. We were older and slowed down and just kind of enjoying life. My family's here, most of them today. My wife, Peggy, 2 kids, Katie and Cole. Thank y'all for all your support. It's not real easy living with a cowboy for a dad, and I know especially when I quit being a cowboy, it got a lot harder for a while. You guys that got up and put on your pants to come down here today to see us, thank you for all you fans that are here. None of us would be here without you at all. Thanks a lot.
Our next inductee would tell you that indeed change is a good thing. This man started out on the heading side of things and decided to become a healer at the age of 18, and little did we know how much that would change the fabric of team roping. He also knows and understands that the importance of a very good partner, who, by the way, he'll share with you, is in this hall, is a very important part of the team roping game, for it is a team, and today we honor our team roping inductee, world champion, Mr. Mike Beers.
Mike Beers won his 1984 World Championship while roping with Hall of Fame inductee Dee Pickett. Beers qualified for the NFR 23 times in team roping, the first in 1980, the most recent 2007. When Beers was only 9 years old, he started dreaming about being a champion roper. A few years later, when his father built an indoor arena, Beers' career path to rodeo stardom began. The Oregon Cowboy said a defining moment in his rodeo career came when he changed from heading to heeling in 1976, and he started winning, earning the nickname Mr. Consistent. In 1993, Beers became only the 11th cowboy in PRCA history to pass the $1 million mark in career earnings. Today, Mike Beers reaches another career milestone with induction into the ProRodeo Hall of Fame.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Consistent, Mr. Mike Beers.
Thank you very much. This is a great honor for me. It's, I guess, something that you never think about being into is being into the inducted to the Cowboy Hall of Fame. I want to thank the Cowboy Hall of Fame. I want to thank the PRCA for giving me a road to travel, to do what I want to do and the love of my life. Since I was a little kid, my brother's here with me today. My lovely wife, Barb, is with me. But when I started, I can remember when being 5 years old, riding my rocking horse while my mom was making the bed. And I always wanted to be a cowboy. That's all I wanted to be. And then, went through high school rodeo and college rodeo and had a great career, and it's been a lot of fun. I do a lot of schools nowadays. I travel a lot. I got a lot of chances. I got to go to Brazil, did some schools in Brazil. Actually, the kid that you see at the national finals, Junior Nogales, when he was 5 years old. He was at a school I did in Brazil. A couple years ago, he come to a roping in Cheney, Washington that my wife and I put on, and I told Junior, I said, Junior, I want to get a picture with you. He goes, Mike Beers, I got a picture with you. I said, no, a picture with you and I. He goes, no, I got one. I'll send it to you. So he sent me this picture, and he's 5 years old. I'm standing between his mom and dad. It was a great time, and I've had a lot of great success with rodeo. I guess there's three things that really come to my mind in my career in rodeo. And the first one was in 1984. In 1980, I got together with a guy named D. Pickett, which is one of the greatest guys that ever showed up in my life. He means a lot to me, and we had a lot of fun together, had a lot of tough times together. But we traveled. I lived with him, lived in his basement for about 7 years there in Caldwell, Idaho. And we finally won our world championship in 1984. Had a great time and a great success. And if it wasn't been for him, I wouldn't be wearing the gold buckle that I'm wearing today. I want to thank D. Pickett. Well, the second thing in my career that really stood out was in 2007. I kind of quit rodeoing, and my oldest son Brandon was out rodeoing, filled his permit a couple years before, and was rookie year. And he asked me to go to some rodeos that winter, and I'd quit, and didn't feel like I could compete with all the kids. And we ended up going to Houston that year, and coming back in the short round at Houston in the top 10, and that's the first year that they high-loaded first place. Come down the short round, I roped a leg in the short round. So I'm out back, I'm kicking myself. I go and saddle my horse, and as I'm walking back into the Houston building there, Brandon Adams is coming out, and he goes, you know, he said, you're a lucky son of a bitch. I said, why? He said, you just made the short round. I said, what? There's no way. I just roped a leg. I mean, you had the top guys behind me. Walt Woodard was the last team out. He had to be 11-2 to beat me. Comes around, ropes the steer by 2 feet, missed his dollies, kicks up, lost a leg, was 11-3. I made it by 1/10 of a second. So we go back to the short round. Brandon and I were the first team out in the short round. We have a steer that just really run, and we made a great run. It was like 6-2 on this steer, and didn't look like we was going to win much. All the rest of the good steers were out, and the next team breaks the barrier. Next team misses. Last team out was Cesar de la Cruz, and they had a steer that was 4-8 on in the first round, and I'm walking out of the arena. I'm out there taking my boots off my horse, and they hollered out, you know, 4-9. So I'm taking my boots off, and all of a sudden, a lady comes out. She goes, Mr. Beers, we need you in the arena. I said, well, what for? She goes, well, you just won the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. I said, what? So I went back out there, and it's a great moment. And at the time, we won $36,000, and I think at that time it took $45,000 to make the finals. So right then, I knew I'd help my son make his first national finals. And that was pretty cool. And the third greatest thing that's happened to me was being inducted to the Cowboy Hall of Fame. Thank you very much.
You know, as I think about all the great things that have happened prior to and beginning in 1979, one of the things as an announcer that we always look for is history. You know, we always learn that we learn today from the history of yesterday. I found it interesting that the bio on our next individual talked about flying to multiple rodeos in 1960. Our saddle bronc riding inductee today is being inducted not only for his world title and his 10 appearances at the NFR, but a 20-year career. But he did indeed pioneer flying to multiple rodeos way back in the 60s. Today we honor Mr. Enoch Walker.
Enoch Walker, the 1960 saddle bronc riding world champion and national finals rodeo average winner, took to the skies in his ascent to pro rodeo fame, qualifying for 10 NFRs during his 20-year tenure with the Rodeo Cowboys Association. In 1960, the 28-year-old cowboy had been knocking on the door of a gold buckle for years. He was third in 1957, second in 1958, and third again in 1959. Walker entered the 1960 season with a plan for earning that gold buckle that literally took flight, as he was known for having a knack for pinpointing the highest paying rodeos and then finding ways to compete in 2 or even 3 rodeos in the same day. He teamed up with Paul Templeton, who flew Walker from one rodeo to the next when his rodeo trips got too hectic. Walker arrived at the 1960 NFR in Dallas, Texas, leading the pack. He had placed 126 times at 56 rodeos, winning 21 of them, including Salinas, California, and Fort Worth, Texas. He rode all 10 horses at the NFR in Dallas, placing on 5 of them, winning the NFR average and that world title. Enoch Walker is now a member of the ProRodeo Hall of Fame.
Today we honor the late Enoch Walker, and accepting on behalf is his son, Mr. Jack Walker.
Pretty humbling to be here in the midst of all these great cowboys. He spent his whole life rodeoing, and that was all. It was the only thing he ever wanted to do. He said many times it was the only thing he was ever good at. There's a whole lot of stories, but I don't know if Larry Mahan's here yet or not, but one of the stories I'd like to tell on him is when my dad and those guys were rodeoing, they used to drink whiskey all the time and smoke unfiltered cigarettes and party, and I'm sure Bobby Christian can relate, they had a pretty good time. But one time they were at the Cow Palace, and Larry Mahan had started the idea of being an athlete, not drinking so much whiskey and not partying all night long, not doing all that stuff. And so he had made this concoction, herbal tea and something, and he was going into Cow Palace, and he didn't want to look kind of out of place. So he poured that herbal tea in a whiskey bottle, and he walks in, and the first guy he meets is my dad standing there, and he says, my dad looks at him and says, "Hey, Larry, let me have a drink of that." So, you know, Dad's thinking it's whiskey. Larry knows what it is, but what are you going to say? So he hands it to my dad, and my dad took a drink, and Larry said he put this awful face on, kind of shook his head and said, "What the hell is that, Larry?" And Larry has to tell him it's, herbal tea, it's good for you. And my dad looked at him and said, "Boy, you're a strange one, Larry." And so, but I'd sure like to thank it. I'm pretty humbled. Cody, Custer, Charmayne, everybody, it's pretty humbling to be here. I know my dad would really appreciate it. I'd like my son to come up here to accept this with me. Justin, thank you.
I've heard it all now. Herbal tea. This next young lady is a very unique young lady, and I have had the good fortune of watching her career since it started. And she has just unbelievably touched so many lives, so many hearts, and just made a huge impact on our sport. I can remember all the great moments, including the bridal, including the fact that she won a world title at the young age of 14 years old. She blazed the way for so many to follow. Today we honor our WPRA barrel racing inductee, Miss Charmayne James.
Charmayne James grew up in Clayton, New Mexico. Her historic career was set in motion in 1982 when a bay gelding, Gills Bay boy, Scamper, found a home in James's barn for the meager price of $1,200. Together, they became the most iconic duo in equine history, dominating the barrel racing ranks from 1984 until his retirement in 1993. James won the first of 10 world titles at the age of 14 in 1984. The following year at the NFR, she and Scamper would make a historic run on Friday the 13th. As James and Scamper entered the arena, Scamper caught his bridle on the side of the gate, causing the Chicago screw to come out. At the first barrel, people started to realize what was happening with the broken bridle, and by the third barrel, Scamper spit out the bit and had the bridle around his neck, The duo won the round, and it became a legendary moment in NFR history. James was the first WPRA member to wear the coveted #1 NFR back number. She accomplished that in 1987 and became the first barrel racer to win $1 million in her career. James and Scamper won the NFR average title 6 times. In 1996, Scamper became the first barrel horse inducted into the ProRodeo Hall of Fame. James and Scamper were featured in countless publications over the years, including Sports Illustrated and the Guinness Book of World Records. James added a cherry on top of her illustrious career, winning her 11th WPRA World title and 7th NFR average title aboard Cruiser, Cruisin' on 6 in 2002. Charmayne is rodeo royalty, and today joins the ProRodeo Hall of Fame.
Jeff Metters said it correctly. Rodeo royalty, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Charmayne James.
Well, it's been 22 years that Scamper's been in here. I finally get to join him, so I'll try not to cry too much, but that is emotional a little bit. So anyway, today is really a big deal, not only for me, my family, but I think for all the barrel racers of the WPRA. And Doreen Wintermuth, thank you so much for working to make this happen with the WPRA, and Carl Stressman, thank you, PRCA, and the Hall of Fame. I couldn't be more proud and humbled to be one of the first inductees in as one of the barrel racers. You know, for all the barrel racers out there, this is a really great day. I got a lot of people to thank. There's a lot went into all those years winning everything, and I know I don't want to be up here all day. So I want to congratulate all the other inductees. They're all so special, each and every one of you. I remember my first year at the finals, Dee Pickett and Mike Beers being there, how amazing they were. Randy Corley was there from the very beginning, 84 in Oklahoma City. I remember him being there. And Shanna Bush, your mom, Wanda, was an amazing lady. One of the things that always stuck out, she just said, use common sense. That really was stuck out. Not everybody can do that, but Wanda could, definitely, and did. And I couldn't, Mr. Christian, I could not top your speech. That was great. And that's why we love the rodeo world, is, you know, talking about the characters in the rodeo world. And so I'm probably not that much of a character. I've probably been a little more shy and quiet. Probably more like my kids are kind of quiet and shy. Carolyn Viator, I think you're in here somewhere. I think you were partly responsible for Scamper being in here, so thank you for that. And Jimmy Monroe, I've seen you here as well. You did so much for the WPRA. Want to thank her. Kenneth Springer, I've seen you over there. He's taken pictures with the WPRA forever and been such a great supporter all those years. So Kenneth, amazing job you've always done. And definitely Scamper was sent from God above, no doubt. And so thank you, God, for Scamper and all the wonderful horses and my amazing family. My sisters aren't here today, but my oldest sister, Eugenie, and Bernadette and Georgina, they may not know that they are part of the reason I probably rode so good was having to keep up with them, being the youngest one. And my older sisters, they would always ride their horses as fast as they could go. And when I was 4 or 5 years old, I had to try to keep up with them. So it made me ride good when I was, you know, really young. So they probably had some part in it. My niece Elizabeth, who is here, her 2 daughters, Taylor and Bernadette, are here as well. Elizabeth traveled 1,000,000 miles with us, her naked Barbies falling out of the car, you know, at the rodeos. I'll never forget that. My mom and dad are here, Charlie and Gloria. Couldn't have done it without their support. Was amazing. My mom driving me everywhere, you know, getting stuck in the truck stops, and I was too embarrassed to get out, that she'd pull in the mud and get stuck and have to go in and get a wrecker to pull us out, and the all-night drives. And one night she was really tired, and so I drove for a little ways across Tennessee before I had my license, and I got her a ticket. The guy says, "Ma'am, did you know you were going 72? She looked over at me, she's like, "No." But my mom traveled 1,000,000 miles with me, and my whole family sacrificed. And so this induction is not just about me, it's about, you know, your families and your friends. And so anyway, and then my husband, Tony, he got to be there for the last World Championship with Cruiser, and with so much help. He didn't get the Golden Hoofpick Award, that really wasn't his forte, but he was on the sports side of things. He had a great eye for things, and he knew how I always tried to ride and what I tried to do, and was always such great help and support, and always said the right things. He was good. He always had a good way with putting things. And Tyler and Austin are here, my two boys. And I told them they had to come up and say something. Just kidding, you don't have to come up. Anyway, I'm so proud of you guys. They play baseball at a very high level. They do great in school, and so I'm so proud of you. All right, so also along the way, there's been a lot of great veterinarians who have helped me. Dr. Lewis, Dr. Patterson. Dr. Lewis took a slab fracture out of Scamper's knee, and I was still able to win 3 world championships after that surgery. No horse would have probably come back from it, but there was also no vet like Dr. Lewis either who could do what he could do. So the horseshoers along the way, my uncle Brown, Frank Brown, who shod Scamper, and Robert Lewis was a shoer that helped me shoe Cruiser all those years. And without them, my dentist, Randy Rittinger, couldn't have done it without him. The horse chiropractor, Scotty Wilson. It just took so much to keep those horses going, and when you're competing in hundredths and tenths of a second, everything that you can do makes a huge difference. And also, Ogden, congratulations on your induction, and thanks to all the rodeo committees for everything they've done and making it possible for all us contestants. I know all the hard work that goes into it, and letting me be able to live out my dream and compete. So thank you so much. The horses along the way couldn't have been here without the great horses. Obviously, Scamper was a godsend. They really all are. And I teach now. I'm like Mike. I'm, you know, so fortunate to be able to go out and teach people how to take care of their horses, how to ride them, have passion for what they do, how to love it. And so there was Scamper, who everybody knows. There was a horse named Magic that I qualified for the finals. And when coming behind Scamper, everybody thought he was just a dink, but he really was a great horse. I won about $250,000 on him. He taught me a lot. He was a horse that had no brakes, and I had to learn to sit down and not just be going as fast as I could go like I did on Scamper, so he taught me a lot. After that, I rode a horse named Sloopy. I bought him from Marion Grammeth and went to the finals one year on him. He was so fast. He ran the fast time at the finals that year. Was an amazing horse. And then after that, I got Cruiser, cruising on 6. Bought him in a sale yard for $2,000. He pinned his ears and ran me out of the pen. And I thought, well, there's a horse that's tough enough to take the rodeo trail. So I bought him and won about $850,000 on him. Was runner-up one year on him and was in the top 5 a couple years. But that horse was a lot of fun. And when I won that 2002 world title, I said, okay, that's it. I've been at it 19 years. Going to have my family, you know, do my schools. And so this is just like icing on the cake, getting up here today and accepting this award and being into the induction. So, and in closing, I just want to say I couldn't be happier to be here with Scamper again, and thank all of you.
How about that? Well, I tell you what, that's going to be tough to follow right there. Great job, Charmayne. Well, our next inductee is a fellow that I got to watch, got to be around. He's impacted so many individual lives. But the thing that I thought about when I thought about Cody Custer was 3 words: faith, family, and rodeo. In that order. He lived that way every day. He started with a great foundation with Dixie and Jim. He's made an impact not only in rodeo, but outside the arena as well. It's my honor to introduce to you our bull riding inductee today. I'm going to have to cut this a little shorter. I'm going to get emotional, Cody. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Cody Custer.
Cody Custer started riding bulls when he was 13 and won 2 Arizona high school championships before joining the PRCA in 1985. He qualified for the National Finals Rodeo every year from 1987 through 1992, which turned out to be a world championship season for him. One of his most memorable rides was round 10 of the 1991 NFR when he scored 94 points on Groundy Brothers' electric bull Wolfman. Custer was the Turquoise Circuit bull riding champion from 1989 through 1992 and was a 3-time Dodge National Circuit Finals Rodeo champion, winning in 1990, 91, and 92. He also won the original Coors Rodeo Showdown. Custer bounced back from a series of injuries following his 1992 Gold Buckle season to qualify for the NFR in 1998 and 1999. He also won Cheyenne Frontier Days in 1999 and remained an active bull rider through the 2002 season. In addition to his success in the arena, Custer also rode for Hollywood. He was a stand-in for Lane Frost's character in the movie 8 Seconds. Today, Custer is still active in rodeo, helping to conduct rodeo classes for aspiring pros. Cody is now about 8 seconds away from being inducted into the ProRodeo Hall of Fame.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to introduce a friend, Mr. Cody Custer.
Well, Randy and I were sitting there listening to Charmayne, and he said, how are you going to follow that? I said, I think I'll just get up there and talk about Charmayne and Scamper. Today's a special day for all of us. I want to share a little, I want to share a lot of things, but when I got the call driving back from Arizona back to my home in Oklahoma, Clint Corey called me and asked me what I was doing the first week of August, and thought he might want to do a rodeo school or something like that, and I said, I don't know, and he said, well, don't plan anything, we're going to put you in the hall. And so I had about 10 hours left to drive, and I had a lot of things to think about, and I went back to the start, and I really looked at the whole span of what's happened in my life, and really relived it for 10 hours. I was just driving along, and there was lots of tears, lots of big smiles, lots of phone calls. Called a lot of people to let them know what had happened, and I'll share a little something with you. There's a couple of guys that are not here today that I'm certain would be probably making the most noise. My son Aaron, who lost his life in 2011, and my brother Danny, who lost his life 2 years ago. So both of them passed in August. So August has been pretty rough for us, and this is a great honor to have this happen right about now. Just not for myself, but I think for our whole family and all of our friends. And so in 2007, my son Aaron and my nephew Marty came and watched, or 2006, they came and watched Rob Smets be inducted, and so they got the idea to nominate me in 2007, and it didn't work out for 10 years, but so today my heart very, very honored. And this Aaron had this this idea, Aaron and Marty, and Marty's here. Aaron's here in spirit, and O'Dano, I'm sure he's here too. And but anyway, I figured I'd try to get all this emotional stuff out of the way, so my partner over there, Crybaby, would get that out of his system before he got up here to accept his award. There's a million different things that I thought of on my drive back to Oklahoma, and I thought of about 5 dozen different ways this acceptance speech could go, and really everybody who's had any kind of impact in my life or been along with me, you guys that we rodeoed together, and my mom and dad, and my wife and my kids, and just the people I've gotten to meet along the way. My family's away from home. This award is you own a piece of it. It's just not mine. And I'm skipping all my notes. Kind of got going fast, but my mom and dad, Jim and Dixie, sacrificed a lot for us in our youth, and taking us to rodeos, and just allowing us to go be cowboys and do things that we needed to do to get where we were going in the rodeo world. I'll tell a little story. I was 11 years old, and this is how much my mom and dad really believed in allowing me to do what I wanted to do. They sent me off with a guy named Russ Dalvin. I caught a ride from Arizona to Santa Maria, California at 11 years old, and got in with Buster Green and I can't even remember who else was there, but a couple of bareback riders, and I caught a ride to Eugene, Oregon, and met my Uncle Danny Tatum and Aunt Vicky, and spent the summer with them, and I got to see a lot of stuff go on, and I got to see the rodeo world, and during that time there was I got to see Mr. Smith. I have a hard time calling him Smith and Velvet. Mr. Smith. I got to watch him from the ground as a kid. Got to watch him from ground level, and it is a big honor. I thought I was going to be a bareback rider at the time, so I loved that horse a lot. So that means something to me. Mom and Dad, thank you for everything you did. 1981, they sent me on the road with Jack Ward and T.J. Walters, which I don't know about that sensibility or whatever, but I learned how to drink beer that summer. Jack and TJ, they would ice down a case of beer before the bareback riding started, and then they'd leave the truck, and I was left there alone at the truck with some cold beer. So I was 15 years old. Learned a few things. Great summer, though. That was the summer I decided I was going to go make a living rodeoing. I learned to love the road, met a lot of my heroes. Well, I got a lot of notes here. All my traveling partners, I spent a lot of time in the truck with a lot of different guys, and if I start naming everybody, I'll be here all day. Just what came to my mind was my brother Jim Bob, and the times that we traveled, and I just love you, buddy. I'm glad we got to do it together. My wife, Stacy, we met through rodeo. She did not rodeo, but she hung around with a bunch of rodeo bums, and we ended up meeting, and I asked her to marry me about 3 weeks after we met, and we've been together for a long time, 27 years. And all the things that you've done just here over this induction deal, and what you've done to help this be a great day for me. I appreciate it, Stace. I love you a lot. My children, Aaron. Aaron got to go with me one year to Cheyenne, and he said, "Dad, we're gonna go get that little square buckle." This was in 1999, and we went up there together, and I won second in all 3 go-rounds and won the rodeo at Cheyenne. And Aaron wore that buckle, the little square buckle, until he won his own buckle at the Little Britches National Finals in 2006. So sure do miss my boy. Wonder what he'd be doing, who he'd be married to, or if he would be married. He had a passion for roping calves and team roping, so miss you, Aaron. Lacey, you've grown into being a beautiful young lady, and I'm proud of you. I'm proud to see what's going on in your life, and I'm proud that there's no backup in you, a lot like your mama. I love you a lot. And Brett, this is a special year because Brett got his PRCA permit this year, and so the same year that I'm able to be inducted into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame, Brett starts his rodeo career, his bull riding career, and I love you, son. I believe in you a lot. I'll finish with this, and I just want to talk to my kids. Don't be afraid to do anything that your heart has for you. Respect yourselves, respect others. Be yourself always. Don't try to be somebody else. Don't settle, and live large. Looking back, I wish I would have been a little bit less afraid to do some of the things that I wanted to do, and would have been more bold in all the things that I did. Lacey and Brett, you're my heart. Everything I got in the arena can be attributed to hard work, dedication, love for the sport from the beginning. I never did it for accolades. I never did it for, especially being in the Hall of Fame. That was never anything that was on my radar. I did have a goal to make the national finals. In 1982, my short-term goal was make the national finals in 5 years and win the world championship in 10 years. I made the national finals in 1987, and I won the world title in 1992. 5 years and 10 years. Like I said, the Hall of Fame was never a goal, never anything on my radar. I liken being inducted into the Hall of Fame a lot like salvation. It's a free gift that I really didn't do much to deserve, and it's cherished. Thank you, all the committee that puts us in here. I appreciate being a part of this awesome set of people that's in here, and thank you.
Good job, Cody. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to say we've run out of time. We'll conclude our... I had to warn Kent Sturman I was going to do that because he'd have freaked out. You know, in our game, we always say we save the best for last. That may be the case. We're going to find out in a moment. And I'm not going to get through this, so I better hurry up. I've known this guy since I started my career in 1987. I'm just going to, why don't you come do this? I'm just going to say this. This guy's magnetic smile infectious personality and his endearing talent has put himself in front of not hundreds, not thousands, but millions of rodeo fans. This is so well deserved. Our contract personnel category in the announcer, I want you to take a look and meet Mr. Randy Corley.
Randy Corley has been selected PRCA Announcer of the Year 12 times. The first was in 1984. The most recent was 2015. He has also been the announcer at the National Finals Rodeo 16 times. Originally a bareback riding and bull riding contestant, Corley started making radio commercials, then went to broadcasting school with the idea of becoming a rodeo announcer. The late Hadley Barrett, a ProRodeo Hall of Fame announcer, and Corley's father-in-law heard Corley in North Platte, Nebraska, and invited him to apply for his PRCA card, which he did in 1980. Corley has worked rodeos of all sizes, from Hill City, Kansas to San Antonio, Texas. He has announced in Caldwell, Idaho every year since 1982, and at Puyallup and Kitsap County, Washington since 1983. In 2005, he and his daughter, Amanda, became the first father-daughter tandem to work at the Wrangler NFR as an announcer and a timer. Corley usually spends his days talking about other cowboys. Today, they're talking about him and his induction into the ProRodeo Hall of Fame.
Ladies and gentlemen, my dear and close friend, outstanding talent, Mr. Randy Corley.
Is that on? As a joke. I like that, Stay Smith. They laughed. I really don't have much to say because I said it all in the opening that I had on my notes. Let me grab my notes nonetheless. Whoops, that's my toothbrush. I have a daughter who's a dentist, all right? Here they are, right here. You don't need them a whole lot because it's so incredible. It's of rodeo and of all that have been here before. I talked to them. I talked to J.C. Trujillo and many others that are a part of this. And they just said when you walk up there, it's maybe one of the most incredible feelings that you'll ever have. And I think everybody here today that's been here will echo that thought. Cody, I'm glad you didn't get in until this year because you've always been a hero. And I think I'm in with one of the best classes that has ever been inducted. But then I've seen most of them go, all of them go. If there is a weak link in this class, he's on the microphone now. While we talk about some things, I do have a few things I want to mention. The guy who got me started, I knew him. I knew his nephews up in Cody, Wyoming. I went to broadcast school. I knew he was going to start a nightly rodeo in North Platte, Nebraska. It's not what you all think. He moved to Nebraska. I got a job in radio in Broken Bow. Three-time world champion and inaugural Hall of Famer Bill Smith gave me a call, and he said, I'm going to run a nightly rodeo, and love to have you come and work it for me. And got by good enough in 1 year that he actually brought me back a second year as well. Bill's here today, and thank God for that. Bill, thank you. Thank Carol. You're so great. And when I say that Bill got it started, you got to stop and think of something. There was a gal running barrels and a young man riding bulls and roping calves there. And after a few weeks, they went home and told their dad. They said, you ought to hear this young guy in at the nightly rodeo. Their dad was Hadley Barrett. He came in and listened to me. I knew he was coming in. He brought Ted Kimsey along with him, who became a traveling partner for a couple of years, and bless Ted's heart. But Hadley snuck back to hear me when I wasn't aware that he was going to be there. And he called me within 2 days and asked if I'd be interested in getting a card in the PRCA. I left Lusk, Wyoming At a pretty young age out of high school, Dick Baker and Will Crowfoot and I rode bareback horses and bulls around there. Never, ever crossed my mind that there was a highway from Niobrara County, Wyoming to the ProRodeo Hall of Fame. And it was a long journey. There's a lot of people that made it happen, and Hadley Barrett, as everybody knows, was definitely at the very top of that list. They called me, where's your water? Now I know how they felt. They called me and they said, what was the first thing you thought of when you found out the news? I said, I wish Hadley Barrett could be there. Well, I'm going to tell you something. He is here. I know that. Hang on a minute. I got a phone call. Hello? Oh, I know. Okay, thank you. That was Jesus. I forgot to tell you that he helped me out all the way, too. He had some pretty tough times. I'm going to tell you that as well. There's a lot of people that got involved in it. And I'm not going to string it on. And Michelle said, do not get up there and be boring. You know, I just listened to like 11 incredible speeches. The one guy that I thought would fold is my brother Bobby Christensen. He's Comedian of the Year now in ProRodeo. And you all were awesome that came up and gave these speeches. But there was a couple of people that bought out Bernice Johnson. Their name were Fred and Norma Dornkamp. And Fred called me up and he said, look, I got all these little rodeos. You know some of them, Tommy, down there around Eads, Colorado, and down around Pretty Prairie, Kansas. And Fred said, I'd love to have you come and take them all. Boy, you don't get a better start than that when you've only had a card for maybe 2 years. I went to them. We had, when you say it's not a big rodeo, that's not a real good word to use, or that it's a small rodeo. They're all great. They've got committees that work so hard all year. Congratulations to Ogden. That's a great committee. But every committee that puts on a rodeo has a great goal, and that's to give the cowboys and the cowgirls the best that they can give them when they come to that town, and the Hill City, Kansas, and up to Prescott, Arizona, North Platte, Nebraska. I'm working on my rodeos. I have contracts that are due. Puyallup, Washington. Let me come back down there. One of the great ones, Brother Bobby Christensen, loaded me up in Fort Knox one time, and we drove down I-5. He's trying to book me the West Coast. We had one of them stick, and I'm still there, and that is in Springville, California. May not be the biggest rodeo, but let me tell you, they don't make a KOA campground any nicer to go sit at for about 3 or 4 days than right there. Up to San Antonio, Texas, and Keith Martin and that whole crew, they don't make a rodeo too big. They don't make it too small. Every rodeo I go to, I try to make it the one that is the best that I am at that day. And I think that's exactly how it ought to be. So I guess I mentioned the other guy who took me out west, Brother Bobby. Thank you. He spent some time roughing me up a little bit. And first time I went out there, I said, let's go over your stock so I know it. He said, we were in Caldwell, Idaho. He said, listen, you got enough to think about. He said, I'll holler up and tell you if it's an NFR horse, all right? So we got along really good that way. I was so blessed to get to work with Harry Vold so much. And the whole Vold family, you know, they're facing a pain as well. And they were such a cornerstone of this event. And the Butler family, Benny Butler, who's just incredible, runs such a great rodeo. Rhett Butler, who does it without screaming. I hope Benny's watching this live. And on to the Wrangler National Finals and all of that. You know, I'm not going to be a whole lot longer. I got to thank a lot of people. The Wrangler NFR, I've been so fortunate to get to work that and see all of these people compete so many times. It's just unreal. While I salute all of the rodeo committees, my note says over. Hang on. I cannot forget the clowns. I mentioned Ted. What I do, you wouldn't get it done if you didn't have help. I've worked with great clowns, secretaries and timers, you know, they make the announcer up there. Schmutzy will tell you that. They get you the splits. They tell you when there's been a change, and they make you look good. Sound people, sound has come so far. It's a great thing. I got to tell you a quick story. I was in high school, and Dick could even attest to this. We were in the same class. It was a speech class, had an English teacher. So we got on the speech team because it'd be a pretty easy credit. And I gave every speech I had on Larry Mahan or Bill Smith. Sorry, Bill. I was in high school. Any great cowboy at that time, I would write a speech, and the teacher would get mad at me. And she'd walk up and she said, "You got to talk about another subject." I said, "I don't know any other subjects. I love rodeo." She said, "You will or you'll flunk." Next time out, I'm talking about Joe Alexander or somebody, and she came up and she ripped my speech off of the podium. She said, "You got to learn something right now. You cannot talk about rodeo all your life." Now, I'm going to close, and that is a fact. I'm going to close, but I got to tell you, I'm so fortunate. I've got a brother. I got two brothers that are here that have backed me. I wish my mother was here. She is. I wish my dad was, and I know he is. And my grandfather, who was my hero, Waldo Parson. They're gone now, but I know in spirit they're here as well. And in this row right back here, I have 4 of the most incredible children. Oh, yeah. And Brittany is counting how many times I cry this week. I just got the signal for 8. But to Cassie, Amanda, Cole, Brittany, to your fiancés, to your husbands, you guys are just so incredible. Wish we could see you more. I got 3 beautiful grandchildren that are here. That's a nice thing, too. I did lose Hadley Barrett this year. Lee, you've shared him with us so long, and his wife is here. Lee, nice to have you joining us today for such a great honor that you would take the time to come and do that. Appreciate it. His stepdaughter joining, or his daughter-in-law joining us as well. The very bottom line of it all is Hadley Barrett was the best friend I had. He was a mentor. And for 21 performances, he thanked Jesus at San Antonio this year. So I think he's in good shape. Now, the lady who we're going 33 years strong and rocking is my wife. She is my bookkeeper. She is the one that helps me at the NFR. We have to take a trip to Hawaii every year to do the stats over there. But I couldn't do it without her. She's the bus driver when I'm not. That's my wife, Michelle, right over here. Thank you, hon. Thanks to all my sponsors on the job and the fun I get to have at the South Point in Las Vegas, and we'll see you there this year one way or the other, 11 o'clock nightly for the Go Around Awards, okay? More than anything, too, I'm so happy to be a part of the inaugural year of the WPRA. How classy is that we've got the ladies? That's a cool deal. Thanks, everybody. Everybody at the office and hall.
How long was that? Long enough. Good job. Good job. Well, what an unbelievable afternoon it's been, evening, I should say morning. I want to say a very special thank you to all of our sponsors for our breakfast this morning, to the WPRA, the Women's Professional Rodeo Association, and of course to Lisa Lagashar, Miss Rodeo America, and the Miss Rodeo America pageant. Thank you so much. A very special thank you to Jeff Metters and his team at Geronimo Productions. They did an awesome job on the videos today. How about a nice hand for Jeff? He does a phenomenal job. We want everyone to stick around. There's complimentary lunch right over here back to my right in the Hal Littrell World Champion Pavilion, and we're very happy to have each and every one of you here. On behalf of Commissioner Stressman, Kent Starman, everybody, our entire rodeo family, thank you so much. And for one final thing, I'd like to say thank you, God, for such a great and beautiful afternoon, and praise God for professional rodeo.
"2016 and the weather was warmer too. Came May, the skies turned gray, not blue. A huge wildfire grew and then it spread. Evacuation called or you may be dead. Oil capital of Canada is burning. Fort McMurray, Alberta is smoke-filled and hurting. 90,000 left their homes and their belongings. Down Highway 63 for new beginnings. State emergency was called, huge numbers came. Firefighters, police, responders, more proud names. To help wherever and however they could. Folks opened hearts and wallets like a brotherhood. Evacuation centers opened everywhere. Work camps, home sports centers prepared. The hot, dry weather helped this mean fire, which hunted down buildings seemed like for hire.